The newly released DOJ files are giving us more clues into how Jeffrey Epstein potentially lured victims into his web, or tried to, and this includes the world of modeling. Key members of the New York and Miami-based agency that Epstein helped fund lie at the center of allegations connected to sex crimes, and email correspondence between Epstein and a model scout maybe show how the alleged operation made its way across the globe. That is what we're going to talk about right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, real quick, gotta say, it's that time of year again. Tax time, always stressful. Maybe you owe back taxes, maybe you have unfiled returns, maybe you pulled money from your 401k, got hit with an unexpected bill. No matter the reason, the outcome is the same. The penalties grow, interest compounds, and you could owe again with no plan in place. The IRS, they're not waiting. They can enforce collections through wage garnishments or property seizures, and they can file without your consent. But with over 15 years in business, Tax Network USA has seen it all and resolved over $1 billion in debt. No matter the amount, they help taxpayers get back on track, and they can do the same for you, but you have to call right now. They're offering a free investigation call with the IRS, after which they'll put a clear plan in place for you. Do not wait for another IRS letter. Call 866-981-4548 or visit tnusa.com/LC or click the link below. You don't need me to tell you that the modeling world is known for glamour and beauty and innovation and fashion. But now, with the newly released Epstein files, these are painting a very different picture, one that allegedly uses modeling for a means of sexual assault and international recruitment of new victims. That is the set of allegations that is being amplified in these files. And in fact, according to an expose from the New York Times, Epstein allegedly exploited his financial connections to wealthy people and connected people like Leslie Wexner, who we've talked about a lot, to gain access to young women, sometimes under the guise of legitimate modeling opportunities. Now, we know that Epstein was known on the surface as this wealth financier, and one of his top clients for nearly 2 decades was Wexner, the founder of L Brands, which is the parent company of Victoria's Secret and Bath & Body Works. Reportedly, Epstein's financial influence extended beyond just standard asset management with this guy. He also had power of attorney over Wexner's personal finances and assets, including real estate and a private plane. That's according to a power of attorney legal document that we reviewed. But the 2019 expose from the New York Times reveals that while Epstein was involved with Wexner's finances, he allegedly, on at least one occasion back in 1997, posed as a Victoria's Secret talent scout and lured model Alicia Arden into his Santa Monica hotel room, where the report alleges he attempted to sexually assault her. Now, Wexner's business and personal ties to Epstein reportedly came to an end at around 2007. That was a key period of time. Remember, this was following Epstein's first wave of sex crimes involving minors. Remember, in 2008, he entered into that sweetheart deal where he avoided federal charges, pled guilty to Florida charges of solicitation of prostitution, including with a minor. But going back to Leslie Wexner, that is apparently around that time when his team discovered that Epstein was also reportedly misappropriating Wexner's funds. According to Wexner's statement to the Wexner Foundation, this misappropriation involved vast sums of family money, some of which were later recovered, and some of which the statement says had been channeled into charitable foundations controlled by Epstein. It was later announced in 2020 that Wexner would be stepping down as CEO of the company, transitioning to chairman emeritus. This is following a decline in sales. Some have speculated maybe that was due in part to his connection, his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And by the way, in 2020, L Brands announced a deal to sell a majority stake in Victoria's Secret to Sycamore Partners, though that transaction was later terminated. Now, I do want to add that Wexner actually gave a deposition in the Epstein probe last month where he denied any knowledge or involvement in Epstein's alleged sex trafficking activity. We did an entire episode on Sidebar on this deposition, so if you want to take a look, it's up right now on Law&Crime's YouTube channel. And to be clear though, with Leslie Wexner, he hasn't been officially implicated in a crime. There's neither concrete evidence that he knew about what Epstein was allegedly a part of, and he hasn't been charged with a crime. But Epstein's connections to the modeling world span much further than his dealings with Leslie Wexner. In fact, he helped fund a modeling agency called MC2 Model Management. It was founded in the early 2000s by French model scout Jean-Luc Brunel, who is a character that we've talked many times regarding the Epstein saga. He was later accused of sexual abuse, implicated in multiple civil suits. Now, included in the latest batch of Epstein files is this document related to a lawsuit from 2023 between the U.S. Virgin Islands and JP Morgan Chase surrounding Epstein's apparent criminal activity. Okay? And in that filing, JP Morgan Chase agrees that they approved a $1 million standby letter of credit in Epstein's name to support a loan to MC2 Model Management in 2005. Now, the agency represented big-name clients like Nordstrom, Macy's, Neiman Marcus, Saks Fifth Avenue, operating primarily out of New York and Miami, with models recruited internationally. But when it comes to the talent that MC2 apparently scouted out, you have these newly surfaced emails, these correspondence and statements from accusers that suggest that while some of the girls and women were presented under the guise of legitimate modeling work, many were seemingly funneled into environments where Epstein and perhaps his associates could allegedly exploit them sexually. And this is where Daniel Siad comes in. So Siad is apparently a Swedish modeling scout who was commissioned under Brunel to find new talent for MC2. But he also appears in the Epstein files nearly, 1,000, 2,000 times? One of those mentions comes from an email sent by Stan Pottinger, a lawyer for several Epstein victims. Here's what he apparently said in a 2016 message to a New York district prosecutor detailing information that was received from Brunel. From Stan Pottinger, May 3rd, 2016, 12:02 p.m., subject, forward, contact info, Daniel Siad, from Brunel. Yesterday I spoke of Daniel Siad, whom Jean-Luc Brunel describes as a scout or recruiter of girls and or women for J. Epstein. Attached to this incoming email from Brunel is the contact information he has for Siad. Best regards, Stan. Now, while this email was sent in 2016, you had conversations between Epstein and Siad that related to model recruitment that spanned much further back. I mean, here's one of those conversations from 2009 to give you an idea. May 14th, 2009, 6:56 a.m. Daniel Siad apparently writes, I try to chat with Live, but you not answering. I'm trying to get to pay my fees to Slovakia, TCCK, Republic, and Poland, and Hungary to spend the month of June and July scouting in small villages before the summer vacations. I will make you a great surprise when you come to Paris. My best regards, Daniel. And then you see Epstein apparently write back to Siad, how much, $, how much money? The response from Siad appears to be, hello, Jeffrey. I've been traveling with train and bus, and sometimes we have to take taxi sometime. I have to invite the parents for lunch or cafe. I have some girls already who are there waiting for me, like in Poland, and I have to give them some money. So it's going to be not less than 4,000 euro right now. Poland city named Krakow, Slovakia is the right place to be. I have already one ladies waiting for me to see more than 45 models, city named Koski or Lumak. Then I will be traveling to Budapest. I will send you a full report in every city that I was. Most of the girls I find here are already with different agencies. I like when I do a real scouting, and beside, I have this camera. It's very helpful. Voila, let me know what you think. My warmest regards, Daniel. Now, you can speculate that this back and forth between Epstein and Siad was related strictly to modeling recruitment, but the fact that he says, I'll make you a great surprise when you come to Paris, leads to a few questions, right? Does that surprise have to do with women, girls? In what capacity? Don't know for sure. Also, when Siad says, I like when I do a real scouting, no idea what that means, makes a lot of people wonder what that means. But here's another back and forth between Epstein and Siad in a Skype message exchange from 2016. Siad apparently says, call me if you have time. I am in Barcelona with amazing beauty. Call me back. I meet today also. Epstein seemingly replies, Skype name? This one is prettier and sweeter. Siad seemingly replies the next day, yes, like style, very sweet. She hasn't been around, may not be worth it to put in the fashion industry. Sorry, her full name is... And Epstein replies to Siad, call me. Now, again, this conversation could be purely surrounding legitimate modeling purposes. But the way they describe this, right, they describe women or girls in question, makes you wonder if there were other purposes for recruitment. That could be an allegation. We don't know for sure. But here's another example of similar correspondence from 2017 that I want to call out. Now, Siad, who attaches a photo of a redacted female, says, cute French girl in Marrakesh, 22 years old. I took some picture of I know her for 4 years. She said that she is happy to meet you. Her name is redacted. Right now she works as boutique chef in Champs-Élysées. And on the following page is more images of what appears to be the same woman in a different setting. And Epstein then replies, cute. Now, 2 days later, he writes again, all good? To which Siad seemingly replies, when would you like to come to visit Marrakesh? I can organize amazing casting and great place to stay, private house. If you would like to stay at Mandarin Oriental, the owner is a very good friend of mine, Nasser El Kabash. It's difficult to take pictures. The best is to organize a casting. I just meet a friend of mine. She has been scouting for a long time. She is interested to open an agency with me, also to work on Fashion Week project in Marrakesh. Sending you my warmest regards. Thank you for everything. And this is to which Epstein seemingly replies, late September when the weather is nicer, and Siad seemingly responds back, okay. You have another standout mention from the conversations between these two, has to do with asking about the age of these women being recruited. So here are two conversations, starting with one from 2012. So you have this one on Thursday, January 19, 2012 at 3:38 p.m. Daniel Siad writes, hello again, here are the pictures of that I am trying to place in New York. My best regards, Daniel. Epstein writes back, have you seen her? How old is she? Response back, I speak with her almost every day. Throw SK, she is 20 years old. She is very sweet and shy right now, is with her there in Germany. She's sending warmest regards. I don't know, very sweet and shy. Not exactly sure if that's, necessarily what modeling scouts are looking for when assessing new talent. Maybe not, personality matters. But I do want to move on to this other conversation from 2014, okay? August 27th, 2014, Jeffrey Epstein seemingly writes, question mark, question mark, question mark. And Daniel Siad seemingly writes back, and she cooler than Daniel Siad. Epstein writes back, age? Response back, 26, but she look 18. Very interesting pers. I'm assuming here means person. Now, while some of these emails involve women of legal age, you have other emails directly seemingly referencing minors. For example, in 2014, Siad appears to note in an exchange that there are girls 16 and 17 and even a 15-year-old that were seemingly recruited with parental consent for modeling work. July 19, 2014, Epstein writes, I understand that most or many of the girls are either gone to Saint-Tropez or holiday, too late. I will now come end of August instead. Hope you are well. Daniel Siad writes back, who said that? You supposed to be here, Jeffrey. I have few still here. Really disappointed. This is not the first time you promised to come and you changed the plans. Have a great summer. Epstein writes back, I can send to see them if you like. I only wish you well. Siad seemingly responds, I had two girls from Sweden, Slovakian, two French, and the Russian, the with whom you spoke, and a beautiful Chinese named Star that introduced to Swedish, and then Slovakian, booked for them ticket and hotel. Wendy is helping me a lot when needed. I don't see what can help me with. Next time, make sure that you are here before I organize anything. Have a great summer. I am on my way back tomorrow to Stockholm. What about this one? July 20th, 2014. You have Epstein writing, I will reimburse you, of course, for any expenses. Let's Skype. Please send me the details of the girls' names, etc. As you recall, the last few times that I did come, things did not work out, and I was very understanding. I value your friendship and hope this did not cause you too much trouble. Response back, again, seemingly from Siad, is, I am a positive person. That's my ground. I keep on with positive energies, and I have lots of respect for you. You have been always sincere with me. I lose some credibility from these girls, but there are millions of them out there. I paid their tickets and hotel for those Swedish aged 21 and 22, and the Slovakian 22. The Swedish decided to go to Ibiza. Slovakian is going back tomorrow. The French girl from Strasbourg went back this afternoon, even was coming for Switzerland for 3 days. The Russian girl has canceled her fly. I wanted to make for you a great surprise. It didn't work this time. I really hope that it worked next time. In this business, I feel like fishermen sometime one catch quick, sometime no fish. I really did good work for scouting in Scandinavia. Most of them will be ready to start with to tomorrow. At least 5 of them, 16 and 17, will be ready for next year, but I can't send you their pictures as no. Paris, I found maybe a new star. I will be sending the pictures to tomorrow in Sweden. I almost burned my image with agencies. They send requests to tomorrow. You know the story. The French, her name is, she is 15. Her parents checked me out and they are very happy their daughter to start modeling. I'm going back to Stockholm, then Gotland for what we call Stockholm Week. All the girls from Sweden gather there for 5 days, non-stop parties to through my hooks. All the expenses include Liana ticket and her pocket money. Really happy to get out of there. A real nightmare. I spend 2,700 euro. Please try to call if you have time. Warmest regards, Daniel Siad. I know it's kind of broken in English, but you kind of get the idea there. Now, a couple things. Some of the models in this discussion, again, are allegedly 16 and 17, but now you just heard reference to a 15-year-old. And knowing the allegations and what Epstein was ultimately convicted of, you talk about minors, it's chilling to read these girls were potentially entangled in the agency. Also, the fact that Siad labels these potential recruits by nationality instead of name, little dehumanizing. And I also have to call it this quote, like about the fishermen, you catch quick, sometimes no fish. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Putting model scouting and fishing in the same sentence sounds a lot more like hunting for food than it does business. But again, people talk in weird ways. It might not suggest any criminality or any knowledge of criminality or any illicit behavior, but icky to say the least. Now again, maybe that's just also how the modeling industry describes the job. Here's another example of model recruitment. These talks between Epstein and Siad from 2011, okay? Siad seemingly writes, here is Jessica, 19 years old, half French, half Berber, and then gives off the measurements, very nice girl. Jeffrey Epstein seemingly writes back, not very interesting, sorry. Now, we can dissect these emails all we want, but we have to address what insiders and accusers have also said about Epstein's alleged involvement with Jean-Luc Brunel and MC2 Model Management. Here's what famous Epstein accuser, the late Virginia Giuffre, known as Jane Doe 3, said in a 2014 court filing. Another person in Epstein's inner circle of friends who becomes apparent with almost no investigative effort is Jean-Luc Brunel. Epstein sexually trafficked Jane Doe 3 to Jean-Luc Brunel many times. Brunel was another of Epstein's closest friends and a regular traveling companion who had many contacts with young girls throughout the world. Brunel has been a model scout for various modeling agencies for many years and apparently was able to get U.S. passports for young girls to work as models. He would bring young girls, ranging to ages as young as 12, to the United States for sexual purposes and farm them out to his friends, especially Epstein. Brunel would offer the girls modeling jobs. Many of the girls came from poor countries or impoverished backgrounds, and he lured them in with the promise of making good money. Epstein forced Jane Doe 3 to observe him. Brunel and Maxwell engaged in illegal sexual acts with dozens of underage girls. Epstein also forced Jane Doe 3 to have sex with Brunel on numerous occasions at places including Epstein's mansion in West Palm Beach, Little St. James Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, many including orgies that were comprised of other underage girls, New York City, New Mexico, Paris, the south of France, and California. By the way, Brunel denied all wrongdoing. He was awaiting trial at the time of his death, which we'll get into a little bit later on. But also included in the files is a 2010 deposition from MC2's former bookkeeper, Maritza Vasquez. And here's a portion of how that went, okay? Question, and what is your understanding, or what was your understanding that Jeffrey, in terms of Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with MC Squared? Answer, Jean-Luc always said that Jeffrey was his friend, that he is a millionaire, and that Jeffrey was giving him the money to, loans or whatever, and the apartments for the girls and things like that. At some point in time, you drove several girls or a number of girls over to Jeffrey Epstein's house, correct? The answer, not me. Jean-Luc directly took them. I was making the arrangements to get a limousine or a car, and Jean-Luc himself was driving the girls to his house because he was having a party and there were supposed to be girls. Now, at another point, Vasquez is asked about different girls. Question, do you know those two girls? Yes. And were those girls somehow involved with Jean-Luc or the modeling agency? Yes. They were both MC Squared models? Yes. And at the time when they began, how old were they? Do you remember? I believe was like 14, 15, and was 13, 14 when she came. Did you find out that Jeffrey Epstein and or Jean-Luc Brunel were involved in these underage girls that were staying at these apartments? I really don't know that. I cannot tell you. I know there were girls staying there. I never knew if they were going there or not. You mean you knew that the girls were staying there, 13, 14, and 15? Some of the girls were underage, yeah. As well as 13, 14 or so? 13 or 14, yeah. Did you ever ask any of the girls if they were sexually involved with Jean-Luc and or Jeffrey Epstein? No. One time there was a problem with and I believe she was 14 years old, and she tried to go, or they took her to a discotheque in Miami Beach. And when I went to work the day after, they told me that the police was asking. So since she was doing whatever she wanted, I brought her to my house and I said, "You're not going out at night. You're only 13, 14, and that's my responsibility." How would you know that Jean-Luc was taking underage girls to Jeffrey Epstein's house during those years? Because he was saying in the office, "There was a party at Jeffrey's house. I'm taking the girls," and the girls that they were in town, they were like underage girls. We're still talking about 14, 15, 16, yeah. 16 at the oldest? Yes. And they were going, the other girls too, but he personally was taking the little ones because the other ones, they could go in their own cars or whatever, with their boyfriends. Did you ever say anything to him about taking underage girls to Jeffrey Epstein's house? As a mother, I always told him that they were underage girls, and he was saying, "Oh, that I'm the father." Now, The Guardian put out a report in 2022 surrounding accusers in Epstein and Brunel's circle, dating back to the late 80s before the company was ever founded. And one accusation mentioned was from a woman named Courtney Sorensen, who detailed an alleged casting call with Jeffrey Epstein for a Hollywood movie that was arranged by Brunel. Here's how Sorensen described this alleged encounter. The appointment at 6 p.m. on 3rd of May, 1988, was at an apartment just off the Champs-Élysées. Epstein, who was joined by a videographer, told her, "First, I need to see that you're a good kisser and that you're passionate. This is going to be a movie with a lot of love scenes, romance, so we want to make sure that you have the right body and show us what you're capable of." Sorensen expressed her discomfort, telling him she would prefer to do this with an actor and not with him, but went along with it. She says he then suggested moving to the kitchen to film a different scene. Epstein told her, "I'll come up and start kissing you from behind, and then we'll make out on the floor." Sorensen says it was when he put his hands on her breasts and up her skirt that she broke away and told him it wasn't appropriate. She remembers he then tried to hug her and began touching himself. "That's when I just had to get out of there," she says. "I remember shaking, the shame and the fury." Now, according to a report from the Miami Herald, MC2 Model Management quietly dissolved in 2019. This was the same year that Epstein was in jail awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges in New York, and we know that he ultimately died. Some accusers have alleged they were recruited under the pretense of modeling opportunities, so no modeling agency has been criminally convicted in connection or criminally implicated in connection with Epstein's trafficking scheme or alleged trafficking scheme. There were no formal charges that were filed against model scout Daniel Siad, although the French publication Le Monde reports that French prosecutors did open an investigation last month into both human trafficking and financial offenses following the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. The publication says that French prosecutors also received a complaint that was filed by a Swedish woman against Siad, accusing him of sexual acts that she describes as rape and that may have been committed in France in 1990. Now, Siad also denied wrongdoing, even said he didn't know this accuser, and in a statement to The Guardian, he considered his work with Epstein to include legitimate modeling casting sessions in Paris. Told the publication, quote, "Epstein had a big apartment where he used to organize all his meetings, including casting for models I recruited for Victoria's Secret and MC2, and the casting time would not last more than 10 minutes. I always left the place with the models immediately." Now, The Guardian also reports that Daniel Siad told France TV last month that Epstein had abused his trust and that he hadn't been, quote, "in a position to know that this man was dangerous. With time, one discovers that this individual committed atrocities. Fortunately, I never introduced him to any minor or non-minor who was abused. I have nothing to reproach myself for." As for Jean-Luc Brunel, he was investigated in 2020. There were accusations of rape of minors over the age of 15, sexual harassment. He was also under a broader investigation of human trafficking surrounding his apparent ties to Epstein's network. But he was later found dead in his jail cell, 2022, after spending 14 months in custody awaiting trial in what prosecutors would describe as him committing suicide by hanging. By the way, here's how Brunel's lawyers responded to his death, according to the report from the New York Times. His decision was not guided by guilt, but by a deep sense of injustice. Mr. Brunel had never stopped claiming his innocence. But there you go, another component to the Jeffrey Epstein saga. But that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. We're also up on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody.